Okay, we're back at it. Okay, so today what I want to talk about is just really give you guys a little bit of a story time and share my experience working as a apprentice, my apprenticeship experience, just to give you guys an idea of kind of what I went through, and also maybe that might be something that you might want to consider if the opportunity comes across to take this type of apprenticeship and see what you can really learn from it. To start off, I'll be honest, the apprenticeship experience that I went through, I wouldn't trade that in for anything. I mean, that was the most valuable education I've ever received, and I got paid to actually do it. So, an apprenticeship can give you real world, real life experience in an industry or in business or whatever it is that you're doing, directly working with the people involved in these businesses, directly understanding what it takes to operate or run, any type of business. So, for example, in my scenario, I was actually working for the owner of several nursing homes. This was around Southern California. So he was a partner in 10 nursing homes from north of Los Angeles, like north of Glendale, almost in the valley, down to San Diego, South San Diego. So that whole area, there were 10 nursing homes kind of scattered throughout this area. And I mean, the learning experience with that, I know it doesn't sound like a whole lot, but 10 nursing homes does, a considerable amount of, revenue. Let's say each one on average was doing about $1 million a month in revenue. So you have $10 million a month of revenue between the 10 over the course of a year. That's about $100 million. And you'll see a lot of stuff in an organization where you've got $100 million kind of flowing through. There's going to be a lot of activity, a lot of people involved in that, a lot of problems involved in that. So it gave me a inside look as to what it takes to really operate at a certain level and learn from a veteran. I mean, the guy that I was working for directly right under, it was, to be honest, at one point it was like family. Even now I would consider him like family, just because of what we went through over those 3 years. This wasn't just like a regular job where, okay, I showed up at 8 and left at 5 or something like that. I might show up at his house at 10 o'clock at night. I might show up at 4 a.m. and pull back up at his house at 2 a.m. After coming down from Los Angeles, just to come back and meet up at 9 a.m. at one of the nursing homes. So it definitely showed me how to operate as an entrepreneur, because I mean, in reality, he was an entrepreneur. He was a healthcare entrepreneur, along with another partner that he had involved as well. So these are just a couple guys who came together with an idea, and they really made it into something much larger. So it was very inspiring to see that and to learn directly from these guys who played the game of business like an athlete would. Business is no different than a sport. Business is a sport, essentially, and it takes a certain character, it takes a certain work ethic, it takes a certain level of dedication, even with having a family and those things. I started working for him when I was 25 years old. He was probably in his mid 40s, had like 2 kids, had a wife, of course, and a house and everything. And it was inspiring to see how he balanced everything out, even with the wife, even with young kids, like 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old kids, somewhere between that area. When I was working for him, he was still able to manage and handle an extremely stressful workload. And I would think to myself constantly, like during these drives from LA back and forth, we would go, because his partner lived in LA, and we would go see his business partner, who was expanding his empire even further. We would go and see him on a regular basis, sometimes more often, other times less often. But during that time period, so I'm just trying to keep an eye on the time just because I don't want to go too over. But during that time period of 3 years, 3 full years that I worked for him, there were a lot of things that I did. Everything from very important, high level tasks, which I probably should not have been trusted with at that age. I probably wouldn't trust myself with some of those tasks at that age. But from things like that down to getting the coffee, literally getting the coffee, being that guy who every morning, okay, we're going to meet up with the boss. Okay, he was paying for it though, super cool. So it came with a lot of benefits. I would buy his coffee, I would buy my own coffee, buy breakfast, whatever at Starbucks. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying is I did a lot of things which, looking back on, I kind of, just laugh at because of the willingness to apply myself in whatever it was. If his daughter's toy broke, I remember one time her toy wasn't working. It was like a little motorcycle, and she was like 1 or 2 or something like that. And I remember her motorcycle wasn't working. So I ended up ordering the same motorcycle and put it together, and it took me like 2-3 hours to put it together. But I just remember thinking like, you know what? I don't care what it is that he puts in front of me. He didn't even ask me to do that either. But I don't care what it is. I'm just going to do everything in this role to the maximum extent. I'm going to just keep progressing and excelling until I just become like irreplaceable. And by holding a mentality like that, it came with a lot of difficult times, and at the same time it came with being irreplaceable in an organization. And if you can reach the point of being irreplaceable in your organization, you can really start to make an impact in a positive way. Not just money, but money will come. Money will come. Because that was one of the biggest learning lessons that I've had while going through that type of apprenticeship, is that, everybody needs to pay their dues. Everybody needs to go through, those type of times. But at the same time, if you and he did that himself for another, guy who took him in as his apprentice, and he grew from there. So the same way, you need to realize that while serving an apprenticeship, that apprenticeship is just the training ground. It's just a training ground. It's not meant to put you in a position of wealth or extreme financial freedom, if that's what you're going for. You can always find somebody like that who will take care of you and make sure that you're taken care of. But that wasn't essentially what I wanted. What I wanted was that education. What do you know that I don't know? And how can I learn that, internalize it, and then apply it in my own life, in my own ventures? And I would say, to be honest, that the current organization that my family owns and operates in San Diego, which is in a similar arena, working with the elderly, taking care of the elderly, if it were not for working with that guy and my mentor for those 3 years, working for him as an apprentice, his apprentice, I wouldn't know a lot of business disciplines that I understand now, and that I actually was implementing while working for him. So even while I was working for him, in my spare time, I was investing all my time into building this other startup with my family. And now it's a startup which has reached a certain level of success after, several years in operation, over 5 years since we started it. And it's allowed everybody a little bit more freedom in their lives. It hasn't put anybody on a level of wealth or extreme financial freedom, but what's more important than that is having those disciplines, understanding what it takes to build an organization like that. And you can learn that if you can find a good apprenticeship type of a program, or a role, I should say. So think about what type of industry it is that you want to learn. It might be restaurants, that would be an excellent one as well. And be willing to work to the bone. I mean, the first 3 months I worked for that guy, I was new to the nursing home industry. I didn't know shit about nursing homes. I didn't even know what Medicare meant. In those first 3 months, Monday through Sunday, 7 days a week for 90 days, from the minute I woke up to the minute I went to sleep, my mom, I was living with my mom at that time, my parents, my brother as well, we were all in a house, and my mom came in a room and I had profit and loss statements for 10 nursing homes for like 4 or 5 years worth scattered across a room, just profit and loss statements everywhere. And I was just reading these things because he didn't show me how to read it. So I was reading these things, trying to make sense of it, trying to understand what what Medicare was and how it affected the census and how that affected the revenue, and trying to correlate everything, and just sitting there for 90 days, no joke. I didn't go out, I didn't drink a beer, I didn't do anything, no fun at all. But that helped me learn the business rapidly, and then I started to have more freedom as time went on. So if that's something that you think you might be interested in, find yourself an apprenticeship. Find it somewhere, anywhere. Be willing to work hard and be willing to work for next to nothing, because the education that you will receive is more valuable than anything else. All the money, the short-term money that people are driven by, forget about it. Forget about that type of money. That short-term money where you're getting it now, but you're not really elevating this. It's not worth it. Trust me, it's not worth it. Do whatever you can to invest all your time, all your money, all your resources back into here, back into yourself. Because when you do that, you'll start to become more valuable, and you'll see that directly in a reflection in your career, your business, in everything. So I wanted to keep that short, but I have a lot more lessons, to be honest, from my apprenticeship. Some funny, different things that I can share, some financial related disciplines that I picked up from him, and just various things that I learned along the way, just because I feel like I did pick up some valuable info, and I'll turn around and share it so that everyone can benefit from it. And hopefully I can one day hear some stories about the apprenticeship that you guys ended up going out and getting. So with that, I hope that helps. I'll be signing off. Jordan, income over expense, over and out.
Ride around, let's ride around, let's ride around, let's ride around. Back again at it, had a couple days off. Double up the wins just to make up for loss. Time ain't money unless you invest it right. So every time you hit the bottom, you'll see new heights. Never looking at them, focused on us. Head down, working on an all-out rush. You see the road may get lonely at times. No hope and waiting for signs, let's just get back to the grind. Desperate times call for desperate measures. It's mental.